Okay. All right. Over to you, Evan.
Okay, so I guess I should probably mute all as I do this reading, and then I can unmute it once we're done. So mute all for the moment. Okay. Okay, so excellent. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Contact meeting. My name is Evan, and we welcome you all. This group is focused on sharing our experiences and methods of self-enquiry to achieve the realization of our true natures, particularly with reference to the teachings of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. It is always good to share Bhagavan's teachings with anyone who is genuinely interested, but we have to be careful to avoid letting anyone take us to be a guru. We are just equals, fellow travelers on the path, sharing his teachings among ourselves. So for the reading, I decided to mix it up a little bit this week, and I have this most outstanding book, Guru Vachaka Kobai, which I love so much. So I've just picked out a little reading here to start with. This is The World of God. The notion that the world of Shiva exists far, far away arises on account of the illusion of the ego, the I am the body idea. Be firmly convinced that the immaculate world of Shiva, which one should reach, does not exist anywhere except in one's own heart. And here we have the state of Shivam. Shivam, as far as I understand, is sort of the impersonal God. If Shiva is like the personal God, Shivam is like the Godhead, the immanent, all-pervading Godness. When the deluding ego ghost, the scattered mind, is uprooted, the imaginary division between sentient and insentient also ceases. The jiva that then merges in the light of sahaja samadhi, the experience of extremely pure and peaceful awareness, is immaculate Shivam itself. By sinking deep within the heart, one becomes consciousness. The ego, the non-self, departs, and all the accumulated false mental concepts, the defilement of the mind, cease and perish. Such a mind, which is pure sattva, is Shiva Swarupa, the form of God, and it deserves to be known as consciousness, the supreme. So there's a little reading for us. And tonight, we are very fortunate to have Jill with us, who's going to recount her own personal story in whatever way she sees fit. We're all very happy to have you here, Jill. So thank you so much for volunteering to speak for us. So I will unmute you here. Oh, it looks like you are unmuted. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long you want. It's all yours. Take it away.
All right, thank you so much. I'm Jill, and it's really a pleasure to be here. It's interesting because I've told different stories of my life, but I've never been able to sit down and note the spiritual experiences that have put me where I am today. And because, like so many of those moments are things you never tell anybody. They think you're crazy, or like, well, how could that happen? Or how do you remember that? But finding this a group of people that have walked in this direction, are living in this consciousness. I feel like I can talk about it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my spiritual journey and where self-inquiry, how it works for me today. So like I was always a wild kid. I fell from a second story fire escape when I was 18 months old and landed onto a cement deck. So of course, the heaviest thing when you're 18 months old is your head. So we thought I was odd. I was just like an odd child. I talked to people that weren't there. I wasn't hearing voices, but I do have a memory of seeing things in particles, not things, but like a light, kind of a luminescent light where things would be particles broken down, not solid. And it was very exciting to me. So anyway, but that didn't keep me from a kind of rambunctious journey. I was, my mom said I never had the sense to be afraid. I think something happened when I had that fall. I think that maybe I learned that there's nothing ever to be afraid of, no matter how it looks, that there's nothing to be afraid of. So, because I really have had not a whole lot of fear in my life. So, but anyway, I was getting in trouble when I was in high school. And I became the kind of person that you really don't want to know, like I was just there was nobody here. I was just what you wanted me to be. I was a liar. I would say whatever I thought I needed to say, so you'd like me, so I'd be special. And one day I was getting arrested again by this police officer at my school, Officer Trausch. And he picked me up on the highway and said, Jill, you got to start going to school. You're a smart girl. What are you doing? And I was actually, getting some Quaaludes and some weed, and that's what I was going to do. So, he took me back to school, and he sat in his office and he looked at me and he said, "You're nothing but lies. You're nothing but lies. Who are you?" And something in that moment broke inside me. And I went home, and I don't know, I'm so glad it happened 100 years ago, because today, if it was like in this century, I mean, it was like actually probably 68 when that happened. I was about 15 years old. And if it happened today, they for sure would have put me on medication. They for sure would have, got me in some kind of therapy or something, or put me in a hospital. But I broke apart. Something in me, I don't know, got opened up or cracked open or broke down. And the thing is, who am I? Who am I? Who am I then if I'm not all the lies that I've told? Who's left? There was nothing left. There was nothing in me. So, and I had no teacher. I had, be here now, Ram Dass. Nobody even heard of Ram Dass yet at that time. So I had only my own little 15-year-old inquiry, which I got to tell you was fierce and fearless, and terrifying, because everything I had ever thought I believed was falling apart now so what I came out of that was, if I don't know that it's true, then I don't know. And it turns out I didn't know if anything was true. Even like the thing that you can't question, is there God? I came from a very religious family too, I was raised in the Pentecost. So, but it was kind of sweet. But I had to question everything, because everything was what somebody had told me, or what I had seen, or what I thought I was supposed to do, but there was no sense of truth for who I am and what was true for me. And I think they would call it a nervous breakdown or a psychic break or something, because I remember walking and putting on my clothes and thinking, this is how she gets her clothes on, and looking in the mirror and smiling and thinking, this is how you smile, really like a death of the person that I was. And it just came back to, who am I and what is true? What is true then? And all I knew was what wasn't true. And I surrendered that I didn't know anything. And I was like confessing everything to everybody. I was a mess. Just confessing, Mom and Dad, I'm not a virgin, and I've actually been taking drugs, and, just like everything to anybody. I mean, because I wanted to be in truth. That's what I knew. I knew if I felt something was true, then if the whole world said, Jill, you're crazy, it's black, but I knew it was white, then, I'll die with it. But it's something that I knew. So that's what I had. And that's what started my real journey of waking up. And then, and thank you, Claire Trausch. Turns out that this police officer turned out to be went off to California and started this institute of realization. And, who would ever thought that I was in a suburban high school in Chicago, and this cop that was there would be the one that started me to wake up. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. Like if I'm paying attention, how everything has been laid out for me in my life. And then, of course, that didn't keep me from, loving to get a buzz. I always loved to get a little bit high, but I had to give that up at some point. It wasn't working for me anymore. And I found, I heard about this guy, Thich Nhat Hanh, this little Buddhist monk that was doing some retreats, and I went there, and I just stayed. There was something about the way that he walked on the earth, the sweetness, and the idea of purifying my mind, of my thoughts, of being accountable in the present moment, for that everything was interconnected. That when I ate cheese, I was being with the cow that made it. I mean, and it started to get that feeling of breaking down into particles again. Anyway, that set me on another kind of awareness and wanting to really meditate again. And so I began a pretty serious practice of meditating. And I would sit, when my kids were little, I would get in their playpen. They had playpens in those days, and I would sit in the playpen so that I could meditate and know they were safe, and that's when things started to get deeper for me in my practice. And I used to call it surfing, when I would finally be quiet, when there was nothing but that kind of aching, weighted silence that's so deep, it seems to have weight to it, and thought was gone now, and just in the stillness, in the emptiness. I would call it surfing, because it was um, such a surrender, and um, and and I could see that I was changing. I don't really know how to explain the change, but the way that I felt about people, and there was a lot. I'm going to tell you the truth. I did like these 20-day things with Lama Kemsar, where you were just chanting and a lot of bowing and a lot of rituals, But I believe that also, I think it was all good for me. It's all what I needed. But one day I was meditating, and this is probably, I think, probably the most profound moment, a time in my life, is when I would sit, and that that silence would come, and I woke up. I saw, though my eyes were closed, I saw that everything was the same luminescent particles I had seen since my first awakening. And I understood now that I was holding it together with my mind. And in that moment of, I don't know how long it lasted, it was as if I had cracked open, and love and ecstasy, a kind of bliss that is indescribable, came through me. And at the same time that was happening, I was perfectly aware that we all have that all the time, that it's always there. Nothing separated me from it ever, but my thinking mind. And I knew that I never had to be afraid of anything. I understood it was as if like symbols were coming through me, that I understood that. And I can't even express what it is now, but I understood that each of us are coded perfectly to what our experience is to be here. And you think there's not enough love. There's the love that we are swimming in, that's available to us, is incomprehensible. Yet I had been, and I also knew in that moment that this is what I had always, every drug I'd ever done, every drink I'd ever had, everything I had ever sought, this is what I was searching for, and this is what had been there all the time. It's okay, Luna. My cat's getting excited. Yeah, so yeah, and a lot of things came in that time. Like I said, I don't know how long it lasted. It wasn't a day. It wasn't, it was light, and then it was still light. So, but I knew for the first time in this life that I had woken up. That I understood that this actually is a dream that we're holding together with our thinking mind. And I thought, well, oh, I got to tell you what stopped it. What stopped it was the minute like at some point I was like, just whatever I was doing, I don't know, I was sitting there, and then the thought came to me, this is really big. I got to hold on to this. The second that happened, I was right back in my body. I was changed forever, like we are, like we're changed every time we have an awakening. Every time. I remember when I was a kid, and they'd take me to church, and they had this prayer service. Have I talked too long? Somebody, hey, Evan, go like this. Okay. And I was little. I was like 7 years old, and my grandmother would lay in her lap, and she'd like touch my ear, but they were getting the church ready. The old timers would come in there and pray, and praise God and everything. Oh yeah, and that's another thing about that awakening, that moment. It it. I'm just going to tell you my experience because that's all I have. It felt to me like there was something. I mean, I know Ramana says it's here, and I understand that it's here. Oh, I just want to read this because Ramana says it so beautifully. Oh, yeah, like I was thinking about, this is a little embarrassing. I was thinking about sending Dave like a resume about my, my education, my publications, and, my accomplishments in my life and my career and everything like that. And then I said, okay, what should I do? And I opened this book. And I swear, this is what came to me. This is where my eyes fell. It says, of what avail is knowing things other than the self, and the self being known? What other thing is there to know? Seeing the self within, the one light that shines as many selves, seeing the self within as awareness, lightning flash, the play of grace, the ego's death, the blossoming of bliss. And I thought, that's okay. That's all we need. That's all I need, Um, so, so that's probably really all I have to say. I could say this. I could say that experience. Also, like I've been pronounced dead twice. I've been out of. And why am I even still alive? I mean, who knows? But it's because I'll tell you why. I think this is what happened. I mean, I think that we're all exactly where we're supposed to be, and that there is something, and I don't know if this is Ramana-esque, but I'm sure he says it somewhere, but there's something that we are part of, something that is like pulling us forward if we're even listening or yearning at all. And even if you're not, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have it anyway. It's there anyway. And one of the questions, because when you're in that state, that you're not asking questions, you're just receiving, you're just there. I don't know even what you call it, blissing. I would call it maybe blissing, loving. Okay, I've probably talked enough. Yeah, a few more minutes.
Oh, thank you so much, Jill. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. We have a few more minutes, and I was wondering if you would be willing to tell us a bit about your self-inquiry practice or your practice at all related to Ramana, just so we can hear what it's like from your perspective or how you use it. That would be great to hear.
Oh, I didn't even tell you how I found Ramana. Okay, so I had some really bad things happen, some really challenging things happen. See, they weren't really bad because here I am, and I found Ramana. And I was laying on the floor thinking, oh, please just let me, just beam me up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to recreate myself. I can't, at 150 years old, I can't recreate myself in this. Please, God, just beam me up. I couldn't hurt myself, but I didn't really think I could get up and go on, and I laid there, nothing happened. I was still laying there. And it came to me, you need to be fed spiritually. And I'm like, well, great, I'm here freaking Weaverville on the floor. How am I going to get fed spiritually? And it came to me, YouTube a spiritual teacher, right? So that's ridiculous, but okay. So I got on my computer and I YouTubed spiritual teachers. And what came up was Buddha at the gas pump. So I hope that's not offending anybody. So anyway, so there was this guy, David Godman, who I'd never heard of, talking about Ramana Maharshi. And something about the way he spoke about it and his ease and knowledge of it. And it ended with me like, well, who's Ramana Maharshi? And I Googled him that night and started listening to Abide as Self, which I've listened to probably, I don't know, maybe 10,000 times, just, and I never, ever get sick of it. There's always something I get from it. Every little sutra, every little sentence, is so precious to me. So that night I went and I was like stark raving awake, just hanging on every word. And it was like medicine pouring through me, healing me. And it was just like, I can't even tell you. It was like being healed. And I went to sleep and I dreamed Ramana was talking to me. I dreamed he was telling me the things he had said, but it made different sense in the dream. Anyway, and that was it for me. That was every night since then. I have my practice of self-inquiry is, for me, it's to sit and to watch what rises. And he talks about surrendering. And for me, every time the thought rises and I see that it's the self, to me, is my egoic self. I think the language is different that you use, but I'm going to call it, every thought that rises from me turns out it's ego related or about this experience. It may not appear like that, but it's about this physical self. And when I can still that and go back to source, go back to the emptiness, then it's all there waiting for me. I haven't had that experience again like that. I want to say that, but I know it's right there too, because I feel it start to break apart with self-inquiry, with just the questioning. What is it then? What am I then? Who am I then? And just as a thought rises and releasing it. And so that's really my practice today, trying to be awake, trying to actually, I don't really work too much. One of the things I love that Ramana says is your effort is the mistake. I love that. That has made such a difference in my life. When I feel like I'm overwhelmed or like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. When I think your effort is the mistake, and just let it go, just surrender. Everything is a surrender to me now, just, you got this, Ramana, you got this, so that's my inquiry practice, which continues in every situation. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Jill. Thank you so much for your share, Jill. I really love that. I could see how much earnestness you have, how much sincerity. That's such a valuable quality to have. And it's something that you really can't hide. It's transparent. I see you have a lot. And anyway, I had a lot of thoughts about it. But before I jump in and dominate it, the floor is open. Anybody wants to give any reaction, now is the time. But thank you so much, Jill. That was awesome.
Thank you, Evan, for asking me. That's really a gift.
I'd like to ask a question.
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Jill. It's really great to see you, and thank you very much for all the work and the stuff, the support that you do to this meeting and all the other meetings that we do. So I just was interested to know, like, a before and after snapshot of where you're at and what have been. I know the awakening, and it's, you're obviously been a seeker. What benefits have you seen? What practical things have you seen in your life since you started this journey before and the self-inquiry? What's it done for you? I'd be really interested to know how it's helped and
Yeah,
maybe
it's
comment on that.
it's really incomprehensible, but I'll tell you one thing that I know in my life. The like with the social situations in the world, the strife and the struggle, the hatred and the this right and that wrong, that doesn't really seem to have a place in my consciousness anymore. Right? I understand that that's the story that they're in, and that's the story that they're in, and that I can see how it generates suffering, our idea of separateness and right and wrong. And that's, and I don't know when or how that happened. I just know that that's there now. Because, it's not like I don't take action. If I see something happening and it's in front of me, I'll step in front of it, but so that's a huge difference that I feel. Also, acceptance of things as they are. And people, that's, I don't know how that changed. I used to have my precious mother, I used to well, I don't know why she can't get it right. I feel like the time that I wasted wishing somebody was the way I thought they should be, or a situation the way I thought it should be, or the way I imagined it would be, or the way I wanted it to be, rather than just embracing it as it is. How can I be present for that? What a relief. What a relief. The idea of not chasing the past or future, just, I still do that. Don't get me wrong, but I can see it. I can see that I'm getting on the train now and bringing myself back to that. The ability to love unabashedly, ridiculously in a way, without it mattering how it's received. I don't want to offend anybody or scare anybody, but like without needing something back. I have everything. I have what I need. That's another thing about stuff. I go to where. Okay, so what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is I'll be homeless, and which I'm not. But I thought I could make a cave really cute. I know I could. I would be okay. I know I would. I have what I need. I know I do. So things like that, if that answers your question.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks so much.
So I try not to check the stock market before I sit in one.
Ian's got a question there, Evan, and Karima. Hold on, Ian.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jill. Absolutely fascinating, and love your enthusiasm. Yeah, my question is that you talked about that when the thoughts arise. Now, I haven't been at this very long, but I'm already in the thought before I'm aware that it's arisen, and then I have to go back to focus and stay focused. And I'm beginning to feel that I am more powerful in this mind.
Mm-hmm.
But will there be a time when I will sense the thought before it's there? And I may be 5 minutes away in this thought before I suddenly realize. Get back to the breath.
I think that's why they call it a practice. And something that helps me is like to really set my intention when I sit down. That's just me, to really set my intention. And because otherwise I'll be 5 minutes will go by and I'll think, why am I doing this? I'm not doing this to sit here thinking. I'm doing this to still my mind, to experience that which is, to still my mind. And I do really basic things. Sometimes I have to trick myself sometimes still, sometimes I like do I count like 1, 2, because I can't complicate that too much. And there's not too many places I can go with that. Sometimes I use a mala, just to really keep myself, especially if I'm jittery in my mind, I just will use a mala and, 1, 2, next beat, and, in, out. Or sometimes I say, thank you, or thank you, thank you, like, or, and 1, 2, and I just bring it back. And sometimes in the beginning, before I could really get still, I would like shout it in my mind to keep the thoughts away, like 1, but I was quiet, but breathing out 2, just so nothing could fill my mind but the 1 and the 2 or the thank you, So I don't know if that's helpful at all. That's not in any book I've ever read. That was just what I needed to tame this wild horse.
Thank you. Practice.
It will come too. The silence will come. It's there. It's there all along.
Let's see here. Next, we have Karima wanted to say something there.
Hi, I'm Karima. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Hi, Jill. You're one of my gifts in this program. This program's, you're one of my lifetime friends in this program, and I'm so blessed to be here right now. And one of my questions is, does any of your resentments come back to haunt you? Even though you've seen even though you know your part in it and you can separate yourself from that situation, but does it ever come back to haunt you when situations arise in other people, and how do you handle that? And that's my question.
Yeah, thank you, Karima. That's a filthy question. It's a really good question.
Got you back. Just kidding.
Yeah, there are residual, the suffering is gone around them, but I have to remember, for me to help me, I have to remember something around that happened around when my mom died. I have to remember that thing. That's the thing about going deep into practice, because you can't unknow something that you're given, something that you know then. So what I knew, what came through at that time and some other times, is that everything is as it is. Like I got diagnosed with these brain aneurysms, right? It absolutely doesn't matter. There's not one day that can be taken from me that's not supposed to be taken. There's not one day I can be given that's not supposed to be given. There's not one person that can appear to hurt me or someone that I love that isn't in whatever stream of it all that they're supposed to be in. And sometimes I weep, sometimes I cry, because it's hard to see suffering, but I also have a fundamental knowing that it's all as it should be, and as Ramana said, it all will come to right in the end. So thank you for your hideous question, Karima. Love you.
Right. Let's see. Next up, we have Daz. Let's see what Daz has to say.
Thanks, Evan. Okay, I'm Daz. I'm grateful to be. I'm glad I came along actually tonight, Jill. I'm investigating in this kind of practice, and I was on last week, and I did try some practicing from a speaker at that night, and I got quite a lot from your take on it tonight, and I just want to congratulate you, really, to be fair, to just say to be able to feel that love that you emanate, you've got that, and you'd probably, I can feel it, be a great person to be around to bring out love in others, and And, you know, we hear a lot of people talk about God being love, and you touched on the particles that you were able to break them down. And I've got a bit of scientific knowledge in not so far as subatomic particles that quantum physics relate to, but our genetic makeup, which is basically Earth. You know, we end up being part of the Earth. You know, in our bodies we've got minerals, we've got metals, and all this and that. Now, what I'd just like to touch on is that how, you know, somewhere in there with all that the particles is a spirit, and that spirit is eluding. It's very evasive, and it can sometimes be comprehended as an illusion. People do try meditation and, you know, all this yoga and things like that to get to a certain state that they feel that they've arrived. Now, I just want to ask you, have you ever arrived at that state? And what sort of practice was it that you was doing, like meditation or prayer or, you know, that subconsciousness, not that subconsciousness, not the consciousness of reality, but there's something there that have you ever arrived at that position?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the position is that you're describing. I have had the experience of seeing the dream, the illusory reality that we exist in on a daily basis. I have had the experience of seeing that dissipate, of seeing that fall apart, and the complete awareness that everything is vibrating particles, and somehow I am holding it together as you are holding it together, as we are all holding it together with our thinking minds. I can't tell you how that works, but I understood it. And that is what's going on. That is the most awake I have ever been in my life. And I understood perfectly that why they call it a dream, why they call it waking up. Absolutely, because it's exactly like that. It's exactly like you're coming out of a dream. It's exactly like that. It is a dream state, but yet this is my life. The people I love are the people I love. I want it to matter. That's what was hard about Ramana for me, because there was this idea that it doesn't matter, that nothing's happening. And I want the people I love. I want it to mean something. And I have been with people as they've passed. I have been so blessed to many times be with someone, animals and people, as they are transitioning. And my experience is absolutely that every bit of love they've been given, every bit of love they've received and given, it goes with them somehow. I don't know how that works. You know, Ramana talks about when he was in his state for years, seeing realms of like bodhisattvas. What does he call them, Evan? I can't remember. But like these holy saints that one glance from them is just like, you know, like really bliss. So
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm not. I just think there's many realms. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you.
But the subconscious state that day, or the state that day, was just wanting to know, just being so in love with source, and just wanting to know how to be closer, how to merge into that, you know, which is often my prayer when I begin to meditate. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
That was something that I really saw in your share, Jill, was how even from a young age, you had this sort of spiritual homing instinct that I think a lot of people have, but I think our society doesn't give us a lot of outlets for it, or we can't find it. And I could see how you sort of had this instinct pulling you towards, almost like pulling you towards things that I would have said, oh, that sounds like that teaching. That sounds like that teaching. That sounds like something the Buddha said. And I think you were just sort of naturally drawn to this on an instinctual level. And I think for me, it kind of shows how we all have this sort of spiritual intelligence, in there somewhere. And also when you mentioned that moment when you said that you were so overwhelmed in this outer circumstance and you were just wishing to God, just take me now, that really made me think of the quote when Ramana says that that in order for surrender to be effective, that you have to do it with this will of one who is held underwater, trying to rise up to the surface to save their life. I always remembered that quote, and it sounds like that was a moment for you where you were experiencing that. And what you said about everything just being exactly the way it should be, I mean, that's exactly what, when I went to Arunachala, that was a conclusion that I reached pretty quickly, not just there, but looking back at my life. So I think having that attitude, that's such a powerful way to do the sadhana, is if you just adopt the attitudes of Bhagavan and you really believe it and you feel it sincerely, that itself is an amazing sadhana. If you look at it, you say, well, Ramana had this attitude. This seems how he saw the world. If you just experiment and you try to see the world with that attitude, it has results, it has effects, and I could see that all throughout your share of how, even if you may not have known this word at this time or known this teaching, within you had the attitude, within something was pulling you towards it. And that's the sincerity, that's the earnestness that pulls us along. So that was my reaction to your share. And let's see here, maybe I can pick out some people here. We have 23 participants who are doing pretty well. Maybe I could ask perhaps Reinhardt, if you'd like to share something, Reinhardt. I believe this is the first time you've joined us. Maybe we could get you to give your thoughts on Jill's share there.
I think it's beautiful to listen to anyone, how he awakes, how he gets into this mystery of presence. And it's beautiful. And everyone, I think, is different. And I liked your about this being overwhelmed by your experience, even when you had your fall as a as a little child. And I think that's a principle we can always observe, that coming to a borderline or to a limit of what is known and your comfort zone, maybe, that may easily trigger awakening, because you reach a limit and you can ask, what is it? What is it? What is life truly here and now? And you brought that beautifully in your own style. And I think everyone who would talk here would have his own or her own version. And I think the beauty is Bhagavan himself. I call him Bhagavan or Ramana, it doesn't matter. How he, he's the current and we are the bulb. How he gets into life in every form. It's a mystery. It's a mystery, and there's no copy really. Each one is authentic in his or her own way. That's my feeling.
Thank you, Reinhardt. I would love to hear about your experience sometime.
You're welcome.
Yeah, maybe you can come back and speak to us.
Yeah, we're really hoping we can get Reinhardt to share his story with us, because if you guys don't know him, he's been into this stuff a long time and he's had quite the path, so we hope he'll join us one day and we can all pick his brain about his experience also.
That'd be wonderful.
So thank you for joining us,
And I feel that's so true about everybody having their own experience.
I will.
Good. I'll look forward to it.
Okay, there's
one. Let me say one sentence. I do some watercolor painting, and there's a famous Austrian. I live in Austria. There's a famous Austrian painter, and he once said, "If a picture comes out well, it's not due to me. It's due to me when it does not come out well."
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it
Brilliant.
is. It is.
So yeah, so therein lies the path of our lives, right?
That's true.
Wow.
So
That's
funny you
amazing.
mentioned that quote, because just today I was speaking with Sonny on the phone, and we were talking about surrender, and Sonny said, well, but if you tell normal people that you're doing surrender, they could say, well, that's irresponsible. You can't just surrender, you're being irresponsible. And we were laughing because I thought, surrender is the most responsible thing that I know to do, because when
It
I don't
definitely
surrender,
is.
that's when it goes poorly. That's
It
irresponsible.
definitely
If I
is.
just surrender it, that's the best thing I can do. That's the real
Oh,
responsibility.
actually, it's there's no real difference, as Bhagwan was teaching, uh, between self-inquiry and surrender. I always reminded of a quote of one of my teachers. He said, "Surrender is the radical insight that you cannot bring it about." That's something. It reminds what you said with his head underwater. Or Buddha said, imagine your head is on fire and you look for help. That is the urgency I liked in your talk very much.
That's one of my favorite quotes, that we're all running to the river. Some of us run as if there's a tiny spark inside of us. And some
Yeah.
of us run as if every hair on our head is bursting into flames.
Yeah.
So I think everybody in this group is running to the river with every hair on us on fire.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Reinhard. I really look
You're
forward to
most
hearing you.
welcome. I thank you.
Thank you, Reinhard.
Okay, well, I'm quite enjoying the meeting today. The first one that I've tried, the hosting thing. I'm loving it, man. I'll be doing this every week if I have the privilege to. This is so much fun.
Good,
Okay,
fine job,
well,
Evan.
let's see. We still
think,
have
I think Marty's got something you'd like to say as well.
excellent. Let's throw the floor over to Marty.
Hi, everybody. Jill, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's always good to know people at a deeper level, and I know we've seen each other in many different meetings, so thank you very much. And I just love this whole Ramana business. I don't feel like my hair is on fire and I'm running to the water. It's more like Ramana's got a lasso around my neck and he's dragging me. As much as I fight to stay away, just no, Marty, come back. This is the way you're going, buddy. You don't have any choice in this matter. And so I'm very happy for that. I came by Ramana totally by accident several years ago, and I'm in a yoga workshop in LA, and so I'm at this Bodhi bookstore and looking at these spiritual books, and some girl in our class come by and said, Marty, this would be a good book. And she pointed to the collected works of Ramana Maharshi, just the same thing you read from earlier today. And I took it home and started to read it, and I thought, oh my God, this is too much for me. I can't deal with this non-personal God. I want somebody to take care of me. And I mean, that's kind of what I experienced. And I put the book on a shelf and just couldn't look at it for like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years. And then something happened and I got back in, and it's like, well, it just seems like the most natural thing in the world, the most natural place to be. And practicing inquiry and surrender, it's like, my experience is the same as what Reinhard talked about, is pretty much the same, and that the real, I don't even want to call it joy in life. It's just the peace in life comes from finding that place of stillness and being there. And I got a kick out of what Ian was saying. Sometimes he'll be 5 minutes into his thought before he realizes he's thinking. It's like, 5 minutes, dude, you are way ahead of me. I could be hours into this thing before it's like, oh, Marty, yeah, you're trying to grab control of things again. So it's always good for me to let go and to just be as I am, and just the real joy too is seeing you being who you are, just without any expectations or pretenses. And So anyhow, thanks, Dave, for calling on me.
Cheers,
Thanks, Marty. I freaking love you.
Thank you very much, Marty. All right,
know,
what about Virginia? Virginia, would you like to share anything with us?
I love, Jill, what you had, just the pure love that you shared. It touched me really deeply. I love when somebody has that, just that open, that heart. So thank you. My question always comes back to, I have this ever present skeptic. Did you ever have that? And if you did, how do you calm that? Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Of course it does. It makes perfect sense. It is my karma to work with skeptics, you know, with hardcore atheists, agnostics, and people that don't believe in anything. It's just like a magnet for that, you know. I don't know why, but I think one teaching that I really like is that only a fool would believe something because somebody else says it's true, right? You know, we're inundated with that, right? In our society, in our world. Try something with intention. If it has value to you, if it helps you, then it has merit. Investigate it. Try again. You know, that's what I can say to skepticism, because good, be skeptical, question everything, and never stop. But is it working for you? If it's not, if it does, great, then it's all good. I love your rug, by the way. But if it's not, I have a little ADD going on here. But if it's not, maybe be open or willing to try something else that might raise you up if you want raised up. I'm not saying that you need raised up, you know. I think sometimes we're like vibrational fields, especially after the particle thing, that that there's ways we can escalate or raise ourselves up, expand our consciousness, connect more deeply to that which is, but that would be getting into your skeptical thing, which isn't helpful. So I would suggest maybe if you were open or willing to try something just to see if it has value for you. If it does, then try it again or investigate it. If not, toss it out, you know, try something else or not.
All right, real quick, I see Joseph wanted to say something. We still have a few minutes left. So Joseph, you want to share anything with us?
For me, it was not a question, who am I, but aware of awareness. Not the question, who am I, but the practice with awareness, aware of awareness. Because when I close my eyes at the beginning of my so-called practice, I'm already there. This is the ordinary God-sent awareness, which we all are. And we are aware of our images, image, word, sound, feeling, sensation, or sensations. And if you go with any of that part of image, sensations, feelings, you can be lost in it and call it that my or mine. And this is the trap which many people then question that practice. But only aware of awareness whole day, naturally. That's all for me. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Good on you,
Thank
Joseph.
you.
Joseph, yeah, I really liked your phrase, God sent awareness. That's a good phrase. I like that. God sent awareness.
Because we are in it, around it, with it, we are it. Always.
Word to that, as they say in America.
Ramana
All
has
right,
a
let's
beautiful thing that
see.
he says about that where you call it meditation now because you're distracted. It's just so simple and so perfect, you know?
All right, we got a couple minutes and then I'm going to read a little thing to close us out from Guru Vachika Kovai. Anybody have a quick final comment that anybody would like to make? All right, looks like we're about set. Okay, then. Well, hey, let me thank everyone so much for coming to the meeting. This has been great. I'm so happy to hear everyone's different perspectives. What Reinhardt said, that it's all unique, man. And whenever I do these meetings, it makes me realize that we're all so much more similar than we realize. You know, we go through these experiences, we have different ways of seeing it, but every time I experience this meeting, I'm like, wow, I'm not as weird as I thought I was. There's other people that also experience this stuff and have their own words for it. And it makes me feel so much better, so much more connected. So allow me to pick up this excellent book here, the words of Bhagavan himself, recorded by Muruganar and then checked by Bhagavan. So this book's wonderful because you really know that straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. So I thought I would pick this little reading about humility, because as you probably have seen, Bhagavan says that humility is an extremely valuable quality for all people, but especially for spiritual seekers. It is the highest, the quality that should be the most revered, and it's mysterious. So let's see what Bhagavan says about it. The position of human beings will improve to the extent that they behave with humility towards others. The reason for God's supremacy, the reason why the whole world bows low before him, is surely, is it not, his exalted nature of not possessing a deluded ego that rises even inadvertently. A humble attitude of mind will give you redemption, transporting you to the world of the immortals. Without humility, you will drown in the pitch blackness of hell. God humbly and enthusiastically worships all beings at all times, as though taking upon himself for all time menial service to them. Is it not because of this that he has become privileged to receive the great and preeminent forms of worship performed each day by all beings of all the worlds? As devotees of God see only their own self in everything, they behave with humility towards all of them. But since God humbles himself even before his devotees, he has attained as his nature that state in which there is nothing inferior to him. Is it not because of the supremacy of this extreme humility that he has attained the state of God? And finally, Muruganar concludes with, on many occasions, Bhagavan told me, become envious of anyone lower than you. You must become very small. In fact, you must become nothing. Only a person who is nobody can abide in the self. So that's about all we have for the meeting. You have anything else to say, Dave, about the upcoming events?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for taking a great meeting, actually, Evan, and thank you so much, Jill, and thanks for everyone for coming along. Just to say that next week, guest Evan will be back on deck hosting. He's done a fantastic job, but also we've got a guy from England who's quite well known on the non-duality called Tom Das, and he's a very nice guy, and he's coming along to share his describe his stuff. So come along, it'll be another one. So same time next week. Thanks, Evan.
All right, and thank you so much, Dave, for being the hub, the creator of all these meetings. We know you do amazing work, so thanks for hooking us all up with this group.
No worries, mate. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you again so much, Jill. That was awesome. I'm happy we got